What if I told you that a dog was left to die, not by an accident, but by someone who chose to let him suffer? What if I told you that this innocent creature who only wanted to play was attacked by thousands of angry bees, his body covered in stings, left alone to endure unimaginable pain? Would you want to know how this story ends? Would you feel compelled to help if you knew what happened next? It was a bright, sunny day in a garden, the kind of day that should have been filled with joy. A dog, curious and full of life, trotted around, sniffing the air and chasing a ball. His tail wagged with excitement, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. At the base of a tree, nestled in its branches, was a honeybee hive, vibrant and full of life. The dog, innocent and trusting, wandered too close, his curiosity guiding him. Without any warning, he lunged toward the hive, his mouth opening as if to taste the sweetness. In an instant, the bees struck. Thousands of them swarmed, attacking without mercy, their tiny bodies embedding in his fur, stinging him over and over again. He yelped in pain, desperate to escape, but there was no one around, no one to save him from the torment. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't just a curious dog getting too close to danger. This was a moment of cruelty, of neglect. A dog who had been abandoned to face a horrifying fate alone. Imagine watching a dog play joyfully in a garden, his tail wagging as he chases after a ball. Everything seems perfect until he wanders a little too close to the base of a tree. There, hanging above him, is a honeybee hive, vibrant with life. The dog, curious and innocent, doesn't know the danger. He's never been taught to stay away. And in a split second, he does what any dog might do. He tries to grab a taste of what's hanging from the tree. What happens next will leave you questioning humanity's ability to care for its animals. The bees, protective of their hive, swarm in a furious rage. They sting him relentlessly. Thousands of stings, embedding themselves in his fur, sinking deep into his skin. The dog is left alone, helpless, with no one to help him as he writhes in agony. This wasn't just an accident. This wasn't just a random encounter with nature. It was a cruel twist of fate for a dog who didn't deserve it. And even worse, it wasn't the first time he had been failed. The story of this dog, Chance, begins with innocence. He was just a playful dog, a companion who loved his home and the small, peaceful garden where he spent his time. But that afternoon, everything changed. As Chance innocently sniffed around the base of the tree, he had no idea that what seemed like an innocent curiosity would turn into a life-or-death struggle. The bees attacked without mercy, their stingers digging into his soft skin, each one adding to the unbearable pain he was already feeling. He yelped, running in circles, his body covered in stings. He tried to escape, but the bees wouldn't let up, and still no one was there to help him. Chance stumbled, disoriented and in pain, desperately searching for a way out. He ran to the fence, looking for any means of escape, but the pain was too much. He collapsed to the ground, unable to move, his fur drenched in honey and blood. The pain was so intense the world around him felt like it was closing in. This was supposed to be a simple moment in a dog's life, a joyful afternoon, an innocent curiosity, but it became a horrifying battle for survival. When the paramedics arrived, they found him in a state no living creature should endure. His fur was matted, his body was covered in the marks of 1,000 bee stings, and yet his eyes were still filled with a desperate kind of hope. "He was found like this?" Tessa asked, her voice trembling. She could hardly believe what she was seeing. "Yeah," the paramedic responded grimly. "Found him in a backyard just like this. The bees were still swarming around him when they got to him." Tessa looked at the dog, her heart sinking as she knelt beside him. "What happened to him?" "He tried to get into a honeybee hive," the paramedic explained, shaking his head. "They attacked him. He could barely move when they found him." Chance's amber eyes met hers. and for a moment she felt the full weight of his pain, of the terror he had endured. The thought that this dog had suffered alone, without help, was enough to break anyone's heart. Over the following hours, as Tessa worked to stabilize him, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a random accident. The dog's eyes told a different story. It wasn't just the physical wounds. No, this dog had been failed long before the bee attack. It was clear that he had been neglected, abandoned, left to face the world alone. As Tessa cleaned the wounds, her mind raced. Who would let an animal suffer like this? Who could watch this dog struggle knowing he was helpless and do nothing? The truth was even worse than Tessa had imagined. When she finally spoke with the owners, they made it clear they had no real attachment to the dog. Their words were cold, dismissive, as if Chance was just another possession, something they could discard or reclaim whenever it suited them. Tessa was furious. This dog had been through hell, and the people who were supposed to love him didn't even care. They didn't deserve to have him. "I'm not giving him back," Tessa said, her voice firm. "Not after what he's been through." The owners, enraged, tried to fight her every step of the way, but Tessa wasn't backing down. She had seen the look in Chance's eyes. She knew what had to be done. The battle was long and hard, filled with paperwork, legal threats, and endless frustration. But Tessa wasn't going to let Chance go. She couldn't. Not after seeing what he'd been through. Days turned into weeks, and as Chance's health improved, so did his spirit. The once broken dog who had been left to die in a garden now began to trust again. He slowly, cautiously, started to wag his tail when Tessa entered the room. And then, one day, he took a few tentative steps toward her, nuzzling her hand in the softest way. It was then that Tessa knew Chance wasn't just a dog she had saved. He was hers now. But the road ahead wasn't easy. Despite winning the legal battle, there were still people who didn't think Chance deserved a second chance. There were still those who saw him as nothing more than an object, a thing to be owned and discarded. Tessa wasn't about to let that happen. She fought not just for Chance, but for every animal who had ever been abandoned, abused, or neglected. Today, Chance is safe, he is loved, and he has the life he always deserved. The dog who once lay broken, his body covered in bee stings, now spends his days running through fields, basking in the warmth of the sun, and playing with Tessa, the woman who saved him when no one else would. But his story, and the countless others like it, are a reminder of something we can't ignore. Animals depend on us, and when we fail them, we fail ourselves. If you've been moved by Chance's journey, if his survival and the love he's found touch your heart, then please share his story, like, comment, and subscribe, because together we can give every animal the chance they deserve.